Hello again, lockpicking Paul here, and this is my entry into the Comp Guy or Adam's 100 subscriber giveaway. So first of all, congratulations Adam, brilliant achievement, and I can see you're already sort of going up well above the 100, so that's fantastic news. And for those of you who don't know who Adam is just a great community participant. He's all over other people's threads, he's producing his own material. And relatively newcomer to locksport, but making great progress. So Adam, continue on. It's fantastic to have your participation. You're really adding something to the community. Adam's giveaway requirements are, he wants to know how people approach locks. And there are quite a few entries right now. A lot of people focusing on pin tumbler locks, which are the majority of locks, but they're not all of the locks in the world. And I thought if a lot of people are going to do pin tumblers, maybe I'll take a look at some of the other types of locks that I frequently pick and how I might approach them for a bit of a change. So first things first, and the process is largely the same, although the first step here is a little bit different, which is how the heck am I going to tension that lock? What do I mean? Well, this is a Brady slider lock. These are murder to tension. This is a cool lock actually. Jason34 sent me this, and again, Jason, thank you so much. It's one of my favorite locks. It's got a tubular core, but it's really deep set, so the average tubular core tensioner won't fit in there. You've got to make one, and for this here you've got to make one again. And one of the big problems of making a tensioner to fit a lock is quite often it will obscure the pins or the sliders or whatever the mechanism it is that you need to manipulate to get the lock open. So the business of actually making a tensioner for anything that isn't a pin tumbler is actually part of the challenge. And that's one of the bits I really love. I just love a tool making problem. So first things first, can I tension it? And if I can, am I obscuring the pins? That's job number one. Then it's down to control. A tensioner that jams in there nice and tight is a pretty much a must if you can, and that applies to pin tumblers as it does any other lock. Because if it jams in there nice and tight, you can control it, you can float pick it, you can move it backwards and forwards if you need to. This is an Anchor-Las disc detainer, lots of false gates in this, and you really do have the tension on this is very sensitive. Get it wrong, you won't be able to get in and out of false gates. It's really quite a tricky lock. So tension control is very much a must. So stick the pick in, probe around. Can you manipulate the pins? And there's a point to be made on manipulating the pins in a few minutes. I'll cover that then when I get to it. Dimple locks. Again, a good tension fit is essential, and actually tensioning in the right direction with a dimple lock is really important, because if you've got spools in here and you're tensioning in the wrong direction, you won't be able to set that pin for love nor money. So you pick in the opposite direction to the direction you're tensioning, and that solves that problem. But am I tensioning in the right direction? Does my tensioner fit? And can I control the lock? Next step along the path, have I got everything I need to get the lock open? Because picking pins is not the only thing that stops you from getting into a lock. This is an Avocet dimple lock again, but this one has a magnet interactive. So do you have a magnet? Some of them have additional sliders. Do you have a very thin sort of knife type pick to manipulate the sliders with as well as the dimples? And then do you have something that will help you get through those trap pins once you get the lock actually open to get the 360? So have you done your research? Do you know what's in that lock? Certainly I spend quite a lot of time, if I've got a new lock I've never seen before, doing quite a lot of research on it, just really to understand it and to form an opinion as to how I might go about it. Which leads me nicely onto this Guri. This is an Eastern European lever padlock. It's got a very strange key. But actually, the mechanism itself is just a series of levers you either push up or pull down. And there's a carriage that everything sits in here, which you have to tension it. You have to put a rod in through here, all the way to the back of a lock, and give it a really hard push. And that causes the levers to jam against a bar, and you'll get the levers binding. And I had to make a tool, like a little hook, to pull up or pull the levers down. You can do it with a regular pick, but that was so fiddly that the hook method worked better. So again, it's not always the obvious solution that's necessarily the right solution to getting a lock picked. Sometimes you might have to come at it with a little bit of lateral thought. All right, now, if you're picking, is the lock actually behaving in a way that you expect it to behave? So I'm going to bring out the only pin tumbler here today, which is this Brinks commercial. And this was a challenge very recently done by Sandman. And props to Sandman for that, because actually this gave me a proper good spanking. And it was because I had formed a preconception about this lock, and I didn't give it due respect. There are tiny, tiny counter milling on the core of this and very sharp spools. My lock, even under mild tension, wedged tight, and I couldn't set the pins. So it was a really good learning experience to sort of reset my expectations when I'm tackling a lock. And certainly don't, if you think Brinks are easy, these things out of a packet are not straightforward. I made more of a meal of it than I needed to, but seriously, I wasn't expecting the fight this put up. Since then, it has loosened up considerably, and I've managed to pick it many, many times without any trouble at all. But out of a packet, these things have some pretty good tolerances. They don't last too long, but how often does a lock get really picked in the real world? So anyway, that was a salutary lesson in just taking stuff step by step and not setting a preconception. This is a dual custody safety deposit lock. It's got tubular cores, and tubular locks, by and large, are not hard to pick. And again, much like the Brinks, this gave me a good hiding. I've got a video coming up on this soon. This has the most tapered pins I've ever seen in a lock, ever. And it takes bloody forever to pick this open. About 40 minutes to get both locks to the open position. So that's quite something. You'll be pleased to know the video only has me doing these to one position, because otherwise we'd be here all day. But again, you look at that and you think that's not going to be too hard. It really was, because the tapers on these things, the set per push was so infinitesimally small, it just kept going and going and going. So you're just not ready for that. Then finally, not quite finally, we'll get there in a minute, is learn the feedback of the lock. This is an Ingersoll 10 lever. It took me 6 months to learn it, and the feedback was very specific to getting these locks open. They're quite a difficult lock. But once you've got it down, they're not that hard, but the curve to learn that is quite steep. So yeah, you've got to just spend the time. Take the time to learn the lock. Some locks will be faster than others, but that one certainly took time. And one I've not yet cracked is this Carver 20. I'm still working on this. I'm still learning the feedback on this. And again, I'm getting better. I'm getting a little bit of core movement now. I think I'm still oversetting it in places, but it's a journey. And actually, if this was easy, probably wouldn't do it. So yeah, still learning on that one, but that's the step there. And then after that, if the lock's still not opening, it's experimentation time. So change up the tension, very light, very stiff. Some locks like more, some locks like less. Pick depth is another thing. I had real trouble with 1100s, and I found out that actually picking more shallow, pushing less deep, made a big difference to whether I was going to get that lock open or not. If all else fails, take a break. This thing has spent Now, I've had this lock actually a couple of years, and it spent a lot of time on and off, in and out of a naughty box, simply because I wasn't ready for it, either mentally or from an ability perspective. So sometimes things just need to go back in a box, go tackle something else, and then come back to it. Perhaps your skills have improved. Perhaps you've learned to sort of temper some of your enthusiasm, and you'll start making progress. And that is a really good approach for sort of not discouraging yourself from learning to pick a lock. And that's it. That's effectively my philosophy on approaching a lock. But 9 times out of 10, if it needs a tool making, it sort of gets my interest quite a lot faster than a regular pin tumbler. Anyway, that's my perspective. Adam, again, congratulations on the 100. Here's to many more, and enjoy your picking. Cheers.